All right, it is time for a Louisville and South Florida preview, an early Thursday afternoon game, the first for the ACC in the round of 64. And to go into this one, I'm joined by Colby Allfrey. He is writing over at the Bay Area Examiner down in Tampa and is the co-founder of TB3 Sports Talk. Colby, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk some Bulls basketball.
Yeah, and I had seen that you were one of a very, very small South Florida contingent that was actually out at the American tournament last week. So,
I was the only one. I was the only
oh,
one
wow.
yeah. There was, a couple of the team writers, but I was the only independent media person to go to Birmingham. So I got a lot of great stuff, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to go to Birmingham either from being there for for 4 days.
I mean, I wouldn't too, but this is the kind of insight we need here. So, South
Gotcha.
Florida, this is a really fascinating team. And just diving into the numbers, it's pretty clear that they know who their five guys are. The starters all playing at least 27 minutes per game. I've confessed I've seen them play twice this year. I felt the same that they were just kind of riding this whole group. And I guess we have to start with Wes Ennis, the Division Two transfer, someone who was awesome at that level last year. Got a couple of sniffs from like the really smart mid-major programs, ends up at South Florida, and this guy has turned into an absolute star.
Yeah, really, especially coming out of last week, there's just not enough good things I can say about Wes Enos. He just he's gotten steadily better and better. He's a dynamic offensive player. He's shooting, over 35% from three. He's shooting a high volume. He leads the American in 3 pointers made per game. And he's a dynamic offensive player. But what was really on display last week in Birmingham was his defensive prowess. He was actually his last year. He was his conference's defensive player of the year, which is something that as he kind of came into USF, I think really got overlooked, especially like by me. I'm guilty of it. I definitely overlooked it, but he was matched up with a couple dynamic guards. In the semifinals, they played Charlotte. Dezane Mingo, the day before, Mingo scored 35 points on 8 3 pointers made. He scored 8 when he played USF, and then in the championship game, they played another dynamic guard, Kenyon Giles of Wichita State, the second leading scorer in the conference. He scored 5 points, and Wes Ennis played all 40 minutes and guarded Giles the entire time, and he scored 19 points. He was the tournament's most outstanding player. He has been dynamite. He has gotten better and better. He's well rounded. He is not just a 3 point shooter on offense. He's able to get his own off the bounce. He is such a good player. Definitely like a guy who could be a potential March Darling, I would say.
Yeah, and different types of players, but just looking at the numbers and seeing what they've done, and Ennis isn't quite at the same level, but there is a little similar feel to Stanford's Ibuka Okore here of this guy who was completely unheralded coming into the year. I mean, Okore was a longtime Harvard commit, ends up at Stanford. All of a sudden, this star guard is one of the five best players in a good conference, and I mean, well, I guess we'll talk about the end, what's going on with Brian Hodgson. I mean, Wes Ennis, if Hodgson stays, could certainly just end up with a huge paycheck at USF. But a guy who is either going to probably be the highest paid player in the American next year or is going to be on a very good Power Five team. Just a surprise out of nowhere, though.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think his usage is exactly as high as a Corey, but
No one's
um,
is.
no, no, that is true. But yeah, very unheralded. I think it was because he scored over 20 points per game in Division Two, so you kind of had a feeling, especially just with the amount of lower level scorers that have come up and succeeded at higher levels in the past few years. He had a feeling that he could be a good player, but I think he's exceeded those expectations even, and he truly has become a very well-rounded player. Like he was leading the team in assists last week as well. He's a combo guard, but he has spent time playing the one guard when either CJ Brown gets into foul trouble or Hodgson's experimenting with different lineups. But yeah, he like you said, very unheralded, but seriously could be one of the best players over there in that region.
So he leads the team in scoring. He was not the best player on this team looking at the awards. The American Athletic Conference Player of the Year went to the big man, Isaiah Nelson. This was someone who uh, Brian Hodgson actually acquired when he took the Arkansas State job. He's been with Hodgson all 3 years ever since, leading rebounder in the conference. But tell us about him.
I mean, best one word to describe Isaiah Nelson is motor. I mean, he doesn't stop. He's relentless. He's 6'10". He plays the center position, but he's more of a traditional forward. He's a rim runner. He is going to he rebounds the heck out of the ball. Loose balls. He's able to get. He's averaging 3 stocks per game. He actually was the defensive player of the year in the conference as well. He was like the first player ever to win Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Newcomer of the Year in the American Conference. So had a pretty historic season. But he's not a guy who's going to like create a lot of his own shots. He sets great screens. He's going to get a lot of his stuff on offensive rebounds, lobs, running the floor. He has a little bit of game in the high post. Can dribble, drive, and that's kind of where he takes advantage mostly. Because he is an undersized center, and he will be undersized in this matchup. So he usually takes advantage of that from elbow drives, getting around, bigger defenders. But he is such a high motor player. They have I don't know, they have it in Alabama, and Brian Hodgson brought it over here to USF, the blue collar player, where they wear the hard hat. They keep track of the blue collar points, which is stuff like steals, deflections, rebounds, charge taken, those things that they keep track of. And Isaiah Nelson darn near won every single game. He was the blue collar, probably over half the games this season. So he really does all the little things, and he is just high motor, high intensity. He plays really, really, really hard.
So a little bit undersized, and certainly next to Sanandra Frew and Ali Khalifa, he will be. But diving into the numbers, I think this is going to be a much bigger problem for Louisville's bigs trying to deal with this guy. 63% from two. He was top 70 nationally in free throw rate. Uh, like you had mentioned, the blocks and the steals, top 150 in the country in both of those. And then an elite rebounder, top five in the American, both offensive and defensive rebounding rates. And that's the kind of guy who's just a nightmare for this Louisville front court that, I mean, Frew can mix it up and be physical with guys, but a lot of times he's going to lose that battle. And especially if they have to go small at all, this could potentially be where this matchup starts to slip into USF's favor. I think Nelson's just by far the best big guy in this game.
Yeah, I would agree. And he really, he like you said, he's been with Brian Hodgson for the last 3 years. He is a perfect player for Brian Hodgson's style. He just the rim running, the ability to go, baseline to baseline, to get a big block on one end and trail and dunk the ball on the other. And like, he fits that perfectly. And from what I've seen from Louisville, I don't really know if those bigs there are going to have the foot speed to handle that. And I think that could be some sort of an issue for them in this game, and along with just the relentless effort that he brings.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a specific type of big that can really exploit Louisville. It's just good bigs.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean he's not going to like they're not going to throw him the ball down in the post. He's not going to it's a lot more. He's going to give some dribble handoffs, set some screens, roll hard, maybe get the ball on the high post elbow type area. So he's not going to go down there and beat you down low in the post, but he can do a lot of different things, and he has been effective. I mean, he again, like talking about the size. I mean, he went against Wichita State. They have Will Berg, and he is 7'2", so he's got a 4 inch difference on Isaiah Nelson. Isaiah Nelson was able to get him in foul trouble early, or because he was able to just go right around him, and he was able to fend off. Again, the size issue is not a big deal for him as long as he can stay out of foul trouble.
So this is a top 10 offensive rebounding team nationally overall. And that's something that Louisville's had some issues with throughout the year, although it is really the one aspect, it is the one good thing that their bigs actually do is hit the defensive boards. But I was just kind of fascinating looking around, seeing that this is an awesome offensive rebounding team. And yet, for the most part, Nelson's the only one who's really putting up all that good of rebounding numbers. I mean, Joshua Majafo, who that's someone I've actually seen play a lot, just kind of your stereotypical 3-and-D wing who can also get boards, someone who's just really nice to plug in as your fifth starter. But that was one of the more fascinating things to me. Like, am I missing something in the numbers here? Is there another rebounder to be worried about that I'm just not seeing?
I would say the offensive rebound is more of a stylistic thing than a personnel thing. If you look at Brian Hodges' teams in Arkansas State with different personnel, they were doing the same things on the glass. I mean, that's similar to what, Alabama, which is where Hodgson came from, likes to do. So they very much crash the boards. I mean, you look at like a guy like Joseph Pinion, who you look at the stats and you look at, he's a sharpshooter. That's what he is. But he also has a knack of getting offensive rebounds. It's kind of weird actually at points. And then you got guys come off the bench. I mean, Damian Collins is a pretty solid offensive rebounder. Isaiah Jones was awesome in Birmingham. Just definitely a guy off the bench to watch, especially if Omar Jaffa is struggling. And he is a very good offensive rebounder as well. So the stats might not reflect that because it's not exactly one guy other than Nelson consistently getting the offensive rebounds because it's more of a stylistic thing, if that makes sense. But there's going to be a guy other than Nelson on tomorrow afternoon that's going to have 3 or 4 offensive rebounds. That's not going to might surprise people who haven't watched the team play.
So let's take the specific opponent out of it. So not Louisville, but let's just go kind of general top 50 team here, like someone that you're going to encounter first round of the NCAA tournament. South Florida hasn't played a ton of those teams. They got VCU, they got Utah State. Both of those were a long, long time ago at this point, but just generic South Florida versus a top 50 team. What's the best case recipe for them to be able to, I was going to say pull off an upset, but if we pick someone at the bottom of the top 50, then the Bulls are actually probably just a better team.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big swing for them and every other team is 3-point shooting. Early on in the season, especially when they were playing these better teams when in non-conference play, they struggled to make threes, and it wasn't exactly because of bad looks. I mean, there was a game early on the season they played George Washington, and I mean it was like they were shooting. It was brick after brick after brick after brick. It was crazy.
It was the
Um,
dumbest, drunkest game I've watched the entire 4.5 months of this season.
It was crazy. It was so many free throws, so many missed threes. It was an ugly game for sure. So I figured you'd remember that one. It's hard for someone to forget it if they watched it. But so there's that is a very big swing thing for them. Um, Wes Enos and Joseph Pinion are really, really key. They are the 3-point shooters on the team. Both of them have made over 100 this season. They are actually the first 2 players in program history to make 100 threes in a single season. So for them, like if they can get, some shots to go down, shoot over 35%, maybe if they could get to 10 threes, like that is a huge, huge ingredient for them because they, as the game slows down, they've gotten better, but again, they're not running great half court offense. They don't have a go-to guy necessarily to get his own in the half court. So if they're able to kind of distribute it and have multiple guys making shots, that really is the biggest thing. And I know that's like every team wants multiple guys making shots, but that is the difference between a game like Utah State or VCU is they just were able to they were more effective on the offensive end in the set plays.
So let's flip it around here then, because it does seem to me like South Florida is a team that will be vulnerable if Louisville can really jack up the pace the way that they want to. The Bulls are gonna kind of get themselves pulled into that track meet. But we just got the news a couple hours ago. Michael Brown Jr. is out for this game. So who for South Florida's taking the Ryan Conwell assignment? What are they going to be able to do there? Because we've seen over and over again now, if Brown isn't playing and you can take Conwell out, all of a sudden this team is just at a desperate dearth of playmaking, and it's Ali Khalifa and everybody else for themselves, more or less.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be West Enos taking that assignment, and if if last week's conference tournament is any indication, Louisville is going to struggle on offense because West Enos has really been good. USF typically they like to trap ball screens as well. So they really do a great job. Like last week, those two guys they were not going to let those two guards beat them, and they were not going to let allow that. And Enos was, I mean, just on them like glue, trapping ball screens. Um, fighting through ball screens. Like they're not a team that heavily switches. Or at least they weren't last week. They Hodgson will throw different coverages at different teams, but I mean Enos will have that assignment. And for Bulls fans, I think Bulls fans would be very confident in Enos's ability to shut down Conwell, which I think would be if you're able to shut down him, I think that's a really good indicator of USF's ability to win this game.
So some of the other stuff, this team gets to the free throw line a ton. They were best in the American at doing that.
They're
They
best in
also,
the country.
or sorry,
They were best in the country. They ended the regular season number one in free throw attempts and free throws made
oh,
in
okay,
Division
yeah,
One.
I was looking at rate. So
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
but even still top 50 rate wise, so pretty good nonetheless. Top 50 team in terms of assist rate as well. And it seems like a good chunk of that comes down to the one starter that we haven't touched on at all, and that's CJ Brown.
Yeah, he's really good. That is actually a storyline for again people. There's not a lot of media coverage that comes out of USF. Like I tried to convey this, but CJ Brown's a bit nicked up right now. It's been dealing with a groin injury, if I'm not mistaken, and I also think he might have had the flu last week. Um, So he's a bit banged up. He was actually really only able to play in small spurts in the American Conference, and you look at their offensive output; it was lower than it normally was, and that was a big key because again, CJ Brown is such a key cog for their offense. Like you mentioned, he leads the team in assists. He really is, he is the kind of the calming factor for USF's offense. He's truly their only lead guard that's able to really dictate the tempo and dictate the pace of the offense. So him being able to be in control of their offense is a huge difference factor or difference maker for them.
Yeah, so as you say that, I dig into the game log here. He's only been over 20 minutes twice in the last 6 games, so something to definitely watch out for there, although he did play 27 in the American Conference title game. But we've covered all five of these key starters here. One guy off the bench you feel like has the best chance to really make an impact in this game.
1,000,000% Isaiah Jones. He has been playing more and more recently. He down in the second half of the season, he's gotten better and better. He is really the only like prototypical four guy that USF has. Like a lot of times, Omajafo will play the four, like when he's in the starting lineup, and he is an undersized four. He is more of, like you said, a wing 3-and-D guy. Isaiah Jones is more of a four. He can stretch the floor. He can knock down threes. But he's a stronger rebounder than Omar Jaffa is, especially defensively. And the box score wouldn't show it, but he really was, in my opinion, watching the game, one of the MVPs, if not the MVP of that American Conference Championship game. I mean, he only had 6 points and 7 rebounds, but the deflections he had, the presence he had, the defensive just everywhere he was, and his defensive IQ is really solid. He actually has he was on the team that where Jack Golke beat Kentucky a couple of years ago, so he has some NCAA tournament experience. But that's the guy off the bench to watch. He is definitely going to play a role in this game.
That I'm trying to pull up his stats there from that game. He played 5 minutes,
Yeah, he didn't play
got
much,
a
but
rebound.
yeah,
So that's an interesting one there. But just keys to the game. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking about what's going to happen this Isaiah Nelson matchup, and the fact that I don't know if Louisville has anyone who is properly set up to deal with a guy like this.
yeah, I would agree. I think a key for this is for Isaiah Nelson to stay out of first half foul trouble. That was an issue for him in the two games in the American Conference tournament. Picked up two fouls. Hodgson very typically does not play someone in the first half if they have two fouls. That's just his style. And when Nelson's on the floor, there is a very big drop off. Damian Collins is solid for spurts, but if Nelson's off the floor for an extended amount of time, USF definitely struggles rebounding and offensively just because he does play such a big role in terms of, kind of operating the offense at the top of the key with dribble handoffs or, stuff like that. So I think Isaiah Nelson staying out of foul trouble and being able to exploit the matchup that you're mentioning is a very, very huge key in this game. The other thing is, I think uh, if Wes Enos and Joseph Pena are able to knock down shots, I mean, these are the two most prolific scorers on USF. And USF on Sunday won the game with both those guys not shooting the ball well. So if those guys are able to knock down shots against, again, going for Wichita to Louisville is a step up in competition, and USF is going to have to make those shots, knock those down from their best shooters if they want to pull off this win.
All right, we will see. South Florida, we probably should have noted at the top, winners of 14 of their last 15 here. This team is red hot. Colby, you're going to be covering all of it from the South Florida angle. Where can the listeners find you?
Find me on Twitter at Allfrey Colby. Be live tweeting the game. They can find my articles at the Bay Area Examiner. It's on the Substack. Just type it in on Google. You can find that. And then on Instagram at TB3 Sports Talk. So that's where I'll be doing all my content.
All right, everyone go give Colby a follow before this game, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.